Communication is complicated. That's why so many people really struggle with it. The first thing to keep in mind when analyzing communication is the contextual environment. And that is everything that goes along with the communication. The first thing to think about is that every participant in a communication brings his or her own personal history to that. That personal history can affect how and what they communicate. The actual physical location of this communication plays a part in the quality of it as well, where it's actually physically located. And then there are various noises that we discuss when talking about the contextual environment. The first noise we're going to discuss is external noise, which is actual physical noise, whether it be visual noise, like a flickering light or some distracting thing in the corner of your eye, or it could be physiological noise, which is what's going on in your body at the time of the communication. Do you have a headache that's distracting you, or do you have a stomach ache, or are you starving? All those things are physiological noise. Psychological noise is the stuff we carry around in our heads, the baggage, the judgments, all those things play a part in communication. Okay, if a doctor were to say to his patient, "Okay, I'm done with you," that is basically just a friendly goodbye, right? If a teacher said to their student, "Okay, I'm done with you," clearly the teacher's upset. So that is what we mean by communication is imprecise, because those two exact same phrases said in a different context by different people means two totally different things. So the intended meaning of that statement is not determined by the words, it's not determined by the signs, it's by different factors like who made the statement, the location in which the statement was said, the tone of voice, and the non-verbal communication that you're seeing, and also the relationship between the sender and the receiver. It's very important to think about the why, the reason why somebody is saying any given statement. That reason needs to be conveyed in the interpretation. So if you think about the sentence, "Hi, have I met you before?" That individual could be flirting. They could be just simply asking that question. They may be delaying something else that they don't want to happen. Maybe they're trying to seduce. Maybe they're trying to evade another question that they think might be coming. Or maybe they're just simply introducing themselves. There are 4 types of language that can produce imprecision and sometimes cause miscommunication. The first one is equivocal language. That's like saying, "Oh, your dress, it's really unique." Or, "Hey, I got a new haircut. You like it?" "Yeah, it's interesting." It's the deliberate use of a phrase with multiple interpretations in order to mislead someone. Instead of saying somebody died, you may say that they've gone to a better place. That's an example of euphemistic language. It's using socially acceptable nice terms in place of blunt, descriptive ones. English has lots of abstract language, but ASL does not. If you think about the sentence, "My friend Bob just experienced a horrific traumatic event," the word trauma is extremely abstract. We have no idea what actually happened to Bob. So when interpreting a situation like that, it's important to wait for more information before you start interpreting. Abstract language is imprecise words or concepts. If you think about the sentence, "Your wife was shot," or the sentence, "My house was broken into," the person doing the action is not stated in that sentence. That is passive voice, when the person performing the action is not overtly stated. That is something that we have in English, but does not exist in ASL. In order to interpret it, you have to change it to "someone shot your wife" or "someone broke into my house." As an interpreter, it's important to understand what somebody is trying to say and why they are saying it in that way. Sometimes people change their degree of directness in order to communicate an idea by using equivocal language or euphemistic language. And sometimes people use powerless speech in order to communicate their idea in a certain way. Sentences like, I guess I could do it, or she's kind of mean. The words guess and kinda in those sentences are called hedges. They are forms of powerless speech and they're used to weaken the statement. So instead of saying she's mean, saying she's kinda mean weakens it a bit. Other examples of powerless speech are hesitations, where you add ums and you knows in the statement. Intensifiers. An example of an intensifier is saying, oh, I'm so very, very honored to meet you. Adding all those extra things to intensify the statement. Polite forms, by saying something like, oh, excuse me if you just wouldn't mind, I don't want to impose, but those are polite forms. Sometimes we add questions to the end of our statement in order to lessen the power of them. And those are called tag questions, like saying, oh, he's a good kid, isn't he? And another example of a powerless speech are disclaimers. And disclaimers are saying things like, oh, it's only my opinion, but, or I'm not sure, but I think this. Those are examples of powerless speech. Consider the sentences, it bothers me when you pay for me. You shouldn't pay for everything. And I feel uncomfortable when you pay for everything. Those are all the same idea, but the way each one is expressed has a different impact on the listener. I statements reflect personal responsibility for a message being delivered. You statements can place negative judgment on the person being addressed. And it statements are typically used in an attempt to avoid responsibility. When an individual is trying to soften the message, they'll often use but statements. In the example, she's been a good neighbor, but I'm glad to see her moving. The but I'm glad to see her moving part pretty much cancels out the first part of the sentence.